Take a look at this. The West Coast covered in fire and red flag warnings today. As the middle of the country prepares for snow and ice, South Dakota, Denver, you're in the crosshairs. And then, of course, we have the peak hurricane season. Paulette and Rene both in the Atlantic at the same time. We may see Sally and Teddy as well. And all of this during a global pandemic. Unbelievable. That is right, my friends. So much going on in the world. Welcome back. It is September 8th, 2020, 11:14 a.m. And right off the bat, we are tracking tropical storms Rene and Paulette. Both of them formed between yesterday and overnight last night. We have Paulette out in front here, closer to the Leeward, Lesser Antilles Islands, and then we have Paulette behind it. And chances are we're going to see Sally behind that because we have a big wave of low pressure coming off the west coast of Africa, and a lot of the charts are showing possibly 3 and 4 tropical storms at the same time. Not to mention we have an invest right in between Florida and the Carolinas building, right in the cove there, that we could see actually making a turn westernward into the U.S. So if we're in the ocean, we got to go west to get to the U.S., or if we're on the U.S., we got to go east to get off of it. I'm talking about an invest that is moving its way into the U.S. But very quickly, yes, we do have the fire situation going on the West Coast, and you could just see we have about 7 or 8 states under fire warning and red flag warnings. Very bad situation going on in the West. Unprecedented fires going on. And what's even more crazy is what you see a little bit to the east of that, and that is exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing snow and ice warnings for South Dakota, and soon will be Denver. In the next 24 hours, Denver could see upwards of 2 feet of snow. I saw a very funny post on Twitter. Check this out. Hey, actually, this is Ryan Connolly. First of all, there's his Twitter channel right here. Listen to this. Hey, the colors from winter storm warnings and red flag warnings, red flag warnings being the fire warnings, are pretty much on the same color on the WWA map. Should we change one? Nah, I mean, we are never going to have both in effect at the same time, and sure enough, we do. We have the red flag warning in the darker pink, and then we have the actual winter storm warning on the other side of it. So that's pretty incredible to have a red flag warning for fire and then have a winter storm warning basically bleeding into it. Just very, very different times we're living in right now. And you could just see the drastic temperature drop as this cold air is coming down from Canada. We have a down dip in the jet stream, and then we have an up dip for the Northeast. So it's a little bit warmer in the Northeast. Obviously, the Caribbean is very warm, the Gulf of Mexico. And then where all these snow and ice warnings are, also where a lot of our fire warnings are, we have snow and ice warnings with temperatures in the 30s and 40s. Unreal. So I'll go ahead and stick to what I know for now. Let's take a look at what this giant mess is going on in the Atlantic Ocean. Obviously, we have Paulette and Rene, 2 more names off the Atlantic hurricane list, the 2020 Atlantic hurricane list. I want you guys to take a look at this. We have Sally, Teddy, Vicky, and Wilfred left. Those are 4 names left out of a 21-name list, and then we're going to be going to the Greek alphabet. And for those of you that don't know, we actually, yes, mean the literal Greek alphabet. So once we get through Wilfred, which is letter W, we're going back to letter A. We'll be going Alpha, Hurricane Beta, or Tropical Storm Beta, and then Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, right down the list of Greek names, and I'm pretty sure this will cover the rest of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season if we're lucky. And yes, for those of you that are questioning the names or the letters we don't use, we usually don't use the letters Q, the letter U, X, Y, and we usually do use Z, but this year we don't have a Z. Sometimes there's a Zelda or a Zeta or things like that, but we end the year on Wilfred, so that leaves us 4 names. As you can see, Twitter, at least my Twitter, is blowing up with everyone talking about the fact that we're going to be running out of names. My big fat Greek alphabet, very funny there. All these different spaghetti plots heading towards the U.S., and it's true, guys. And also, there are still people. We've had about 12 days since Hurricane Laura makes landfall in western Louisiana, and we still have people without power in Louisiana. Unbelievable stuff. And then, unfortunately, guys, it is peak hurricane season. We are actually 2 days away from the actual peak, and we've got nothing but a giant mess going on in the Atlantic Ocean. Of course, we already talked about Rene and Paulette. Let's go over the stats for them right now. And here we are. Here is Tropical Storm Paulette. 65-mile-an-hour sustained winds, 995 millibars in pressure moving northwest at 6 miles an hour. We'll look at the direction of Paulette in 1 second. Here is Tropical Storm Rene, 40 miles an hour, 1001 millibars, traveling west at 16 miles per hour. Take a look at disturbance number 1. This is what I was talking about possibly forming and then moving in to the east coast of the United States in a western direction. 40% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. This may in fact become Tropical Storm Sally, and if not, I can pretty much guarantee you that disturbance number 2 down here below Paulette and Rene will be Sally, or at that time could become Teddy. So we could be seeing 4 tropical storms at the exact same time in the Atlantic Ocean. Not to mention there is an invest. Actually, it's more in the Pacific Ocean that wants to move up into the Gulf. So we got to keep an eye on that as well. We may see a crisscross just like we saw Tropical Storm Nana do when it kind of moved into Belize and then kind of reformed as Tropical Storm Julio in the Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean has a different set of names than the Atlantic. That's why it switched names. We may see the same situation, just the opposite, a Pacific storm moving in to the Gulf of Mexico. But nonetheless, we do have this invest here. Definitely an area to watch as we could see a tropical storm form very quickly. Tropical depression first, then tropical storm, then possible Category 1 hurricane. And you can get a little bit of a better idea of that on this chart as I speed up. You could see the energy starting to really boil up to the east of Florida and also to the east of the Carolinas and Georgia here, moving right into that pocket by the Outer Banks. All right, and now let's try to make some sense out of what's going on in the Atlantic. It's going to be very hard because we don't quite know where we're going to see Paulette and Rene go. We have an idea. We do have that Bermuda Atlantic pressure out in the Atlantic Ocean that's going to kind of allow Paulette and Rene to move in a northern direction, and that's why this cone of uncertainty right here is very important, because on more models than not, this disturbance number 2 below Rene and Paulette is the one that looks like it wants to survive and head in a very westward direction towards the U.S. And now the fun part. We're going to start with the CMC, the Canadian model. Now check this out. We have Paulette and Rene, and you're going to see a kind of a turn to the north, and then you're going to see Sally poke out of here. If that's what we're dealing with at the time, again, Sally could form here. That would make this next storm called Teddy. So we kind of wait to see what the next name is going to be to really predict a name. And it's hard to even make a prediction at this point because we do have a lot of time before these storms make it towards the U.S. and which one's going to actually make it there. So we have a few different models to look at to kind of get an idea of what to make out of this. So here we go. As we move forward on this chart, you're going to see Paulette and Rene, and just kind of take a look at the movements they make. They interact with each other a little bit. In this situation, Rene kind of cuts up underneath Paulette into the middle of the Atlantic, and then Paulette follows. And then if this is Sally, that's the one we're going to have to worry about as you take a look at the future. That's the one that kind of stays a little bit farther to the south and heads in a western direction. And then we got this guy out here. So if you take a look at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tropical systems out in the Atlantic at the same time. That alone could take up the rest of the names that we have if this stays true. Taking a look now at the European model, we have it set up. So now we are at the 8th of September. Let's take a look at what they have to say. Here's Paulette and Rene once again, and we'll move forward and see what pops up. So this would be Sally. This would be Rene kind of fizzling out with Paulette surviving, so a little bit of a different situation here. And there's another low pressure there. So just in this alone, by the 14th, we are through every name on the list into our Greek alphabet. And then finally with the European model, Paulette looks like the one to survive and become strong. And then Sally, with Rene disappearing, Sally makes its way into the Leeward Lesser Antilles Islands by September 17th. Now let's take a look at the GFS models. In this chart, you're going to see what would be Sally or Teddy, depending on if that invest forms by Florida. You're going to see Sally or Teddy become a major hurricane that may affect the east coast of the United States. So let's move forward. We're set on September 8th. You're going to see Paulette and Rene do their little dance out in the middle of the Atlantic, and then you're going to see Sally or Teddy pop up and start making its way westward towards the eastern coast of the U.S. So here we go. We're going to move forward there, and you see Rene kind of cut up underneath Paulette, just like we saw in the CMC model, and then we're going to see Sally or Teddy pop up right here. Now check this out. As we move forward, sorry about the clicking, it approaches the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands at 972 millibars by the 16th. And then we really have some strengthening going on as we reach that Category 3 and possibly Category 4 status as it sits right in that cove of the southeastern states of the United States. So we got to see what happens with these storms, guys. We have a lot of action going on in the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean itself. We may see 4 or 5 tropical storms at the exact same time. and that could certainly represent peak hurricane season and the next month of storms, which is why we have that Greek alphabet ready. So we got to wait and see what happens over the next 4 or 5 days. Very important information. A lot going on in the west with the fires, and then the snow going on in the middle of the country, and then the tropics affecting the eastern edge of the U.S. My friends, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every little bit helps, and I appreciate putting this info out for you. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day. I will be back later on this afternoon if need be. Shout out to Canada. Shout out to Ontario. Shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.